Before this year even begins, I want you to hear me clearly. 2026 will not reward noise. It will reward focus. This is the year you stop broadcasting your dreams to people who don't even believe in themselves. This is the year you pull your energy back, sharpen your mind, and build in silence. Because when you focus on yourself, when you protect your vision, your results start speaking louder than your words ever could. So if you're ready to rise, ready to reclaim your power, then today we begin. Focus on yourself and let silence build your greatness. Silence is not emptiness. It's not weakness. It's not withdrawal. Silence is power. And the moment you learn to stop explaining yourself to the world, you reclaim a level of strength you didn't even know was available to you. Most people are loud because they're insecure. They talk because they need reassurance. They broadcast their plans because they need someone to validate them. But the truth is, every time you announce your dreams, every time you explain your intentions, every time you try to make people understand why you're doing what you're doing, you give away just a little bit of your power. In 2026, something has to shift. This is the year you stop narrating your growth and start experiencing it. This is the year you stop defending yourself and start developing yourself. This is the year your silence stops being misunderstood and starts being unmatched. When you stop explaining yourself, you stop inviting people's doubts, fears, projections, and limitations into your process. You stop giving them a place in your mind. You stop allowing their opinions to shape your direction. Because let's be honest, half the time you try to explain your goals to someone, you're not doing it to inspire them. You're doing it to convince yourself that what you want is possible. But you don't grow by convincing. You grow by committing. You grow by quietly showing up day after day, not needing applause, not needing approval, not needing anyone to say, yes, this makes sense. You don't need it to make sense to them. You need it to make sense to you. Silence creates space for that. Silence gives you the room to think in straight lines instead of circles. It gives you the ability to hear your own voice instead of the echo of everyone else's opinions. In that quiet, you start to recognize what matters and what doesn't. You start to understand what you truly want rather than what you're expected to want. Silence becomes the environment where you meet the real you, not the version the world demands, but the version your soul has been begging you to rediscover. And let me tell you something powerful. The people who criticize your silence do so because they depended on your noise. They needed access to your plans so they could judge them, mock them, question them, or secretly hope you'd fail. They needed to feel bigger by making your dreams feel smaller. But when you go silent, their power evaporates. They can't interfere with what they can't see. They can't sabotage what they don't know. They can't limit what they don't understand. Your silence is your shield. It's your boundary. It's your filter. It's the first act of self-respect you owe yourself in 2026. And it's not just about protecting yourself from others. It's about protecting yourself from your own old tendencies. Because let's be honest, sometimes you talk yourself out of your own greatness. You reveal too much too soon. And the moment someone raises an eyebrow, your confidence collapses. But when you stay silent, you stay grounded. You stay in motion. You stay aligned with the version of you who no longer needs external confirmation to feel internally certain. Silence also builds anticipation. When you go quiet, something interesting happens. People begin to wonder what you're building. They feel the shift. They sense something rising. No words, no updates, just a different energy around you. And one day, when the results show up, they realize the truth. You didn't disappear. You were evolving. You didn't withdraw. You were working. You didn't fall off. You leveled up. Silence becomes the bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. And hear this clearly. Silence doesn't mean hiding. Silence doesn't mean shrinking. Silence doesn't mean suppressing. Silence means focusing. It means locking in on your mission with zero distractions. It means pouring every ounce of energy into execution instead of explanation. It means trusting that the world doesn't need to hear your process to respect your outcome. Your growth doesn't require an audience. Your transformation doesn't need commentary. Your destiny doesn't need permission. So in 2026, choose silence, not as a retreat, but as a strategy. Choose it as a declaration that your energy will no longer be wasted on convincing people who were never meant to understand your path. Choose it as a commitment to yourself that this year, your actions will be louder than your announcements. Choose it as a reminder that the most powerful version of you is the one who is deeply focused, fiercely committed, and beautifully silent, because the world doesn't need to hear what you're about to do. They'll feel it when you've already done it. You start to realize something as you grow. Not everyone around you is meant to go where you're going. Not everyone clapping for you wants you to win. And not every familiar face deserves front row access to your life. Protecting your energy isn't selfish. It's necessary because your environment shapes you far more than you want to admit. Your mindset, your focus, your confidence, your ambition, they're all influenced by the people you allow into your inner circle. In 2026, you cannot afford to keep letting the wrong people drain the fuel you need for your own transformation. There are people who don't know how to support you because they've never supported themselves. There are people who will criticize you because they're threatened by the part of you that refuses to stay small. There are people who will question your every step because deep down they're terrified you might actually become the version of yourself you've been dreaming about. And the moment you start focusing on yourself, the moment you start building quietly, the moment you start creating distance, they feel the shift. They sense that the control they once had over your emotions no longer works. This is why protecting your energy is one of the most radical acts of self-love you'll ever practice. You don't need to cut people off with anger. You don't need a dramatic explosion. You don't need to announce you're distancing yourself. You simply rise, you grow, you focus, you heal, and naturally the people who thrive on chaos, gossip, doubt, and discouragement, they can't keep up with that version of you. They fall away because your elevation exposes their stagnation. Your peace exposes their noise. Your focus exposes their confusion. And this is where silence becomes your greatest ally. When you stop broadcasting your life, you instantly see who respects you and who only respected the access you gave them. Silence forces people to reveal their intentions. The ones who truly care will support your space. The ones who don't will accuse you of changing. But you are changing. That's the entire point. You're evolving into someone who finally understands that not everyone should be allowed to speak into your destiny. Not everyone should be allowed to influence your mindset. Not everyone should be allowed to drain the energy you need for your growth. Your energy is sacred. Your peace is priceless. Your focus is your lifeline. You can't continue giving pieces of yourself to people who don't replenish anything in return. You can't keep pouring into relationships that leave you depleted. You can't keep fighting battles that don't move your life forward. Protecting your energy means choosing your battles. It means choosing your conversations. It means choosing your boundaries. And most importantly, it means choosing yourself. When you step into a new level of life, you attract new resistance, but you also attract new opportunities. And those opportunities require a version of you that isn't drowning in emotional exhaustion. They require clarity. They require strength. They require presence. You can't carry old noise into a new season. You can't force people to understand your mission when they've never understood your mindset. You can't expect someone who's afraid of their own potential to cheer for yours. In 2026, you have to build an inner circle that reflects where you're going, not where you've been. Surround yourself with people who challenge your excuses, not your dreams. People who elevate your standards, not lower them. People who remind you of your strength, not your limitations. People who clap when you're not in the room. People who want to see you win, even when there's nothing in it for them. Those are the individuals who deserve your time, your presence, your energy. But before you attract them, you must become someone who protects your own value. You must develop the emotional maturity to say, I need space without guilt, to walk away from conversations that lower your frequency, to decline invitations that derail your progress, to recognize draining energy before it steals your momentum. Protecting your energy is not pushing people away. It's pulling yourself toward the life you deserve. And as you do this, something powerful happens. Your intuition sharpens. You start to sense the difference between support and sabotage, between encouragement and envy, between partnership and dependency. You become more selective, more intentional, more aligned. You stop chasing connections that require you to shrink. You stop engaging with people who confuse your kindness for weakness. You stop tolerating behaviors that keep you stuck. And in that silence, in that boundary setting, in that space of protection, you grow faster than you ever have before. Because now your energy is no longer being scattered, it is being concentrated, it is being directed toward your healing, your goals, your vision, your purpose. And when you concentrate your energy, your life accelerates, your clarity increases, your decisions become stronger, your confidence becomes deeper, your path becomes straighter. This is the year you prioritize the quality of your environment as much as the size of your dreams. Because the truth is simple, your breakthrough depends on your boundaries, your growth depends on your silence, and your future depends on who you allow to walk beside you. Choose wisely, because not everyone can afford the cost of your elevation. The world has never been louder than it is right now. Everywhere you turn, something is pulling at your attention. Notifications, opinions, comparisons, distractions, pretending to be opportunities. And if you're not intentional, your mind becomes a crowded room where everyone is speaking except you. But in 2026, if you want to rise, if you want to reinvent yourself, if you want to create something extraordinary, you must master the art of relentless focus, not temporary focus, not when I feel motivated focus, relentless focus, the kind that stays with you even when the world tries to pull you in 100 directions. Most people don't fail because they aren't talented. They don't fail because they aren't capable. They fail because they're scattered. Their energy is spread thin across too many goals, too many opinions, too many distractions, too many comparisons. They start something, get excited, get overwhelmed, get discouraged, get distracted, then start something else. And they call it being busy, but really it's avoidance. It's fear disguised as multitasking. It's momentum leaking out of their life day after day. But when you truly decide to focus, your life changes at a speed that scares you, because the moment you eliminate noise, the moment you commit to one direction, one mission, one standard, you stop leaking power. Your mind aligns, your energy aligns, your habits align. And with alignment comes acceleration. There's a shift that happens when you stop chasing everything and start mastering something. You stop measuring yourself by how much you're doing and start measuring yourself by how much you're becoming. Focus becomes the doorway to identity, not just progress. You stop asking, what should I do next? And start asking, who do I need to become to achieve what I want? And that question pulls you forward in a way that distractions never could. But here's the truth. Most people avoid. Focus requires sacrifice. It requires choosing the long term over the instant. It requires choosing depth over speed. It requires choosing your vision over your impulses. It demands that you say no. No to pointless conversations. No to draining relationships. No to opportunities that don't align. No to habits that steal your energy. Every yes has a price. Every distraction costs you something. And the people who achieve something remarkable are not the ones who say yes to everything. They are the ones who guard their yes like it's sacred. In 2026, your ability to stay locked in will determine your breakthroughs. Not luck, not timing, focus, the discipline to keep your attention where it matters, even when everything around you begs you to look away. You have to create routines that support your future, not your comfort. You have to structure your days in a way that pulls you toward growth instead of letting you drift toward chaos. You have to be willing to do the boring work, the repetitive work, the quiet work, the work no one sees, applauds, or understands. That's where mastery is built. And something profound happens when you stay focused long enough. What used to feel overwhelming becomes simple. What used to feel complicated becomes clear. What used to feel impossible becomes normal, because the human mind adapts. When you stop scattering your attention, your brain stops living in survival mode and starts operating in creation mode. You think better, you decide better, you move better, you execute better. And little by little, your goals stop feeling like dreams and start feeling like responsibilities you were capable of carrying. But the moment you break that focus, even for a second, you lose momentum, not because you're weak, but because every distraction resets your brain. Every distraction pulls you out of the state where greatness is created. And most people live their entire lives in that cycle, constantly starting, constantly stopping, constantly resetting, never building enough momentum to see what they're truly capable of. Focus isn't just a skill. It's a lifestyle, a habit, a choice you make every single day. And if you truly want 2026 to be the year you transform, then you must protect your attention like your life depends on it. Because in many ways, it does. Your attention is your direction. Your direction becomes your reality. And one more thing, focus doesn't mean you rush. It doesn't mean you grind yourself into exhaustion. It means you move with purpose. It means you stay connected to your mission even when the excitement fades. It means you understand that consistency beats intensity when intensity isn't sustainable. It means you give your full presence to the task in front of you, not the illusion of what might be happening somewhere else. When you commit to relentless focus, distractions stop seducing you, doubt stop controlling you, procrastination stops dominating you. You become someone who moves with clarity and confidence, not noise and confusion. You stop reacting to life and start building it. You stop surviving your days and start shaping your destiny. Because in the end, the world doesn't reward the person who is capable of everything. It rewards the person who is committed to something. There's a moment in your life when you realize that the version of you the world sees is built in the hours no one ever watches. The discipline people admire, your strength, your confidence, your success, none of it happens in public. It happens in the quiet moments when no applause exists. It happens when you're tired, when you're tempted, when you could choose comfort but choose commitment instead. And in 2026, this private discipline is going to be the foundation of everything you become. Most people wait for motivation, they wait for inspiration, they wait for the perfect moment to start. But the truth is, motivation comes and goes like a wave. It's unpredictable, it's emotional, it's temporary. If you depend on it, your growth will always be inconsistent. Discipline, on the other hand, is steady. Discipline is a decision. Discipline is the agreement you make with yourself to follow through long after the excitement disappears. And the stronger that agreement becomes, the more unstoppable you become. When you're alone, nobody sees the battle inside you. Nobody sees you resisting old habits, ignoring distractions, pushing through discomfort. They only see the outcome later. They see the transformation. They see the confidence. They see the results. They never see the silent war you fought to achieve it. That's why the work you do in private matters so much. It's where you build the muscle no one celebrates. It's where you strengthen the mindset no one claps for. And it's where you develop the self-respect that changes the trajectory of your entire year. There will be moments in 2026 when discipline feels like a burden, when waking up early feels pointless, when choosing the right path feels exhausting, when staying committed feels lonely. In those moments, your mind will try to negotiate with you. It will tell you to rest, to skip today, to start again tomorrow. And if you listen to that voice, you repeat the same cycle that's kept you stuck year after year, the cycle of almost changing, almost improving, almost becoming who you know you're capable of being. Discipline breaks that cycle. Discipline says, I don't negotiate with my goals. Discipline says, I keep the promises I make to myself. Discipline says, I show up even when no one's watching. And when you start living like that, something incredible happens. You trust yourself more deeply. You begin to feel stronger inside, not from results, not from praise, from integrity, from knowing you're doing the right thing, even when no one is there to validate it. Think about it. The hardest battles you fight are internal. The battle to stay focused, the battle to follow through, the battle to resist comfort, the battle to silence doubt. Nobody can fight those for you, and nobody can feel the victory the way you do when you win them. Your discipline becomes your identity because it shapes the way you see yourself. When you keep showing up, you start believing in yourself again. When you build consistency, you build confidence. When you build strength in the dark, you shine in the light. And the beauty of discipline is that it compounds. One strong day leads to another. One win leads to another. One moment of self-control leads to a new standard, and that new standard begins to define your future. The routines you create in private become the results you live in public. The habits you build in silence become the power you carry everywhere you go. But you can't be disciplined if you're still chasing shortcuts. You can't be disciplined if you're trying to impress people. You can't be disciplined if you're relying on quick results. Discipline requires patience. It requires commitment. It requires maturity. It demands that you choose your future over your impulses. And that is one of the most empowering choices you will ever make. There's something powerful that happens when you choose discipline over comfort. Your life stops feeling random. You stop waking up feeling behind. You stop wondering where your time went. You stop apologizing for who you are. The chaos quiets, the noise fades, the confusion melts away, because discipline gives you structure, and structure gives you clarity. Clarity gives you direction. Direction gives you purpose, and purpose gives you peace. And that peace is priceless, because it's the peace of knowing you're becoming someone you can depend on. Someone who doesn't quit. Someone who doesn't fold. Someone who doesn't need the world's approval to stay committed. Someone who builds themselves brick by brick in the silent hours when no one knows what you're working on, but everyone will feel it later. This is the year you create the habits that match your vision. This is the year you build the strength that matches your goals. This is the year you stay committed even when it's inconvenient. Because the truth is simple, your future is shaped by the work you do when no one is watching. There comes a point in your life when talking about the new version of yourself isn't enough. You can describe your goals, you can explain your mindset, you can announce your intentions, but none of that creates real transformation. Words don't rewrite your life, actions do. And in 2026, your evolution has to be felt, not spoken. The world doesn't need another declaration of who you're becoming. It needs to see you become it. Your transformation has to speak so loudly that you no longer need to. Every time you talk about your plans, every time you try to convince people you've changed, every time you list the things you're going to do, you leak energy, you leak momentum, you leak the fire that should be fueling the action itself. Because deep down, part of you is still seeking confirmation, permission, or validation. But transformation isn't something you convince people of, it's something you embody. When you stop talking about the change and start becoming the change, your life begins to shift in ways you didn't think were possible. Think about the moments in your life when you felt the most proud of yourself. They weren't moments when you talked about what you were going to do. They were moments when you actually did it, When you prove to yourself that you were stronger than your excuses, bigger than your circumstances, more powerful than your past. That's what carries weight. Not the announcement, but the execution. And when you truly transform, you don't need to explain it. People feel it. They feel it in your presence. They feel it in your decisions. They feel it in your discipline, in your confidence, in your boundaries, in your silence. You stop reacting the way you used to. You stop entertaining the things that once drained you. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You stop repeating old patterns that once defined you. And even if you say nothing about your evolution, everybody knows something shifted. Your transformation becomes undeniable because it shows up in the way you move, the way you think, the way you speak, the way you show up for yourself. It shows up in your habits. It shows up in your standards. It shows up in your consistency. Transformation, when it's real, doesn't need a megaphone. It needs commitment. And once you commit to living it instead of talking about it, your life begins to echo that commitment in every direction. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to prove their growth. They want others to notice it immediately. They want recognition, praise, validation. But transformation is rarely visible in the beginning. It's messy, it's internal, it's quiet. It happens in your thoughts, your decisions, your private battles. Nobody sees that part. And that's exactly how it should be. Because the roots of a tree grow long before anyone ever sees the branches. You don't owe anyone updates on your healing. You don't owe anyone explanations for your boundaries. You don't owe anyone a speech about who you're becoming. The moment you stop needing people to understand your evolution is the moment you begin accelerating it. When you shift your energy from announcing to becoming, you free yourself from the weight of expectation. You begin growing for you. Not for applause, not for approval, not for recognition. And here's what's beautiful. The quieter you become, the more powerful your transformation becomes. Silence makes people curious. Silence makes people pay attention. Silence makes people watch. And when you finally reveal the results of your hard work, your silence becomes your strategy. People won't ask what happened to you. They'll ask, how did you do it? Because transformation that's cultivated in private always reveals itself in a way that shocks the world. Your growth doesn't need to be announced. It needs to be lived. It needs to be felt in the strength of your choices. It needs to be seen in the way you carry yourself through challenges. It needs to be reflected in the standards you set for your life. You don't have to convince others you've changed. The evidence will do that for you. And understand this, the new version of you will confuse people who knew the old version of you. They'll wonder why you're not reacting the same way, why you're not explaining yourself, why you're not desperate for approval, why you're not engaging in old patterns. They'll be uncomfortable because your transformation forces them to confront their own lack of growth. But that's not your problem. Your job isn't to be understood. Your job is to become. In 2026, let your life be the loudest thing about you. Let your habits speak. Let your focus speak. Let your discipline speak. Let your peace speak. Let your results speak. Let your transformation walk into the room before you do. Because when you finally stop trying to prove who you are becoming, you free yourself to actually become it. There's a power that comes from having a vision so strong it doesn't need to be spoken, a direction so clear it doesn't need to be debated, a purpose so alive inside you that the world feels it without you ever having to explain it. That's what 2026 demands from you, a vision that moves you, shapes you, and transforms you silently from the inside out. Not a vision you talk about, not a vision you post about, but a vision you live with every breath, every decision, every disciplined step forward. Most people treat vision like a wish. They talk about it, they romanticize it, they use it as a way to escape their reality instead of transform it. But a real vision doesn't work like that. A real vision doesn't give you comfort. It gives you responsibility. It doesn't hype you up. It holds you accountable. It doesn't make you feel good. It makes you feel committed. When you carry a real vision, you can't stay the same. You can't keep the same habits, the same excuses, the same distractions. A real vision demands you rise, and that rising doesn't happen with noise. It doesn't happen with announcements. It happens with clarity, because clarity is what cuts through confusion. Clarity is what wipes away hesitation. Clarity is what gives you the courage to do the things most people avoid. When you know exactly what you're building, you stop using your energy to convince others and start using it to construct the future you're stepping into. There's something sacred about holding a vision silently, not because you're hiding it, but because you're protecting it. Because you understand that in its early stages, your vision is fragile. It's vulnerable to opinions, doubts, projections, negativity. So you don't expose it prematurely. You don't water it with fear. You don't let others trample over it with their limited thinking. You nurture it, you guard it, you feed it, you strengthen it in silence until it's powerful enough to stand on its own. And once it becomes strong enough, People start feeling it before they understand it. They notice your consistency. They see your boundaries. They sense your focus. They feel your shift. They watch you show up differently. They witness the way you carry yourself, the way you make decisions, the way you prioritize your growth. You don't have to explain the vision. They can see the transformation happening around it. But make no mistake, creating a vision that speaks without words takes courage. It requires you to trust yourself more than the world. It requires you to hold your direction even when no one else understands it. It requires you to choose the path that aligns with your soul rather than the path that looks convenient. You must be willing to disappoint others to stay true to yourself. You must be willing to walk alone for a season to walk with purpose for a lifetime. This is why silence becomes such a powerful part of your strategy. When you remove noise, you hear your future more clearly. When you remove distractions, you see your path more clearly. When you remove unnecessary conversations, you feel your purpose more deeply. You realize your life isn't supposed to be built around other people's expectations. It's supposed to be built around the calling that wakes something inside you. And here's the beautiful part. The more aligned your vision becomes, the less you need from the outside world. You stop seeking validation. You stop chasing approval. You stop wondering whether people understand you. You stop explaining what you're doing and why you're doing it. You simply move. You simply grow. You simply evolve. And that evolution becomes impossible for others to ignore. You begin attracting better people, better opportunities, better environments, better energy, because a clear vision has a magnetic pull. It draws in what matches its frequency and rejects everything that doesn't. The more you walk in alignment, the more the universe rearranges itself around your direction. This is the moment in your life where you stop hoping for a better future and start building one. With intention, with discipline, with silence, with unwavering commitment. You don't need to shout where you're going. You don't need to convince anyone who you're becoming. You don't need to broadcast every step of your journey. You simply need to move with the conviction of someone who knows exactly what they're here to create. Because when your vision becomes clear enough, the world adjusts itself to make room for it.